Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and this podcast is ranked in the top 2% of the most popular podcasts globally, and it's because of my guests. They are fantastic. I am honored and blessed to share time with people who are at the top of their game, and they show up here willing to help you get to where you want to be in life and in business. And our topic today is unlocking rapid income growth. Michael Tucker's secrets to virtual event success. I've been waiting for this. I'm so excited. Now, Michael Tucker is the CEO and founder of the Funnel Pros. It's a leading authority in the virtual event industry. And since graduating in 2017, he has empowered online entrepreneurs to amplify their messages through virtual stages and online challenges. This has been a long time coming. We have needed this for a long time, and here he is. And his innovative strategies have helped clients generate over $35 million in profit in just a few years. And one of his notable achievements includes launching a 5-day challenge that earned $30,000, which is not bad, which later contributed to over $750,000 in revenue within 8 to 10 months. And his expertise lies in creating engaging online challenges that convert audiences and drive significant revenue. Good morning, Michael. Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I'm excited to have you here.
I am so excited myself to be here. This is going to be an amazing conversation. I already know it.
I want you to do all the talking and sharing. You have so much to share. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about virtual events, and I'm just sitting here with my notepad taking notes. I'm
Awesome.
ready. But before we get started, can you tell people a bit about yourself and how you show up in the world?
Yeah, my name is Michael Tucker, and thank you for the amazing intro, by the way. I've been in the digital marketing and virtual event industry now. I tend to lose track of time, but it's been about, I think, 6 years now, maybe seven, somewhere around there, but somewhere about 6 years. And we primarily focus on running virtual events for online entrepreneurs. So, people that are coaches, speakers. We've worked with software companies. We just step in and what we do is we say, hey, you have an amazing message and amazing mission. Let's get that out into the world using virtual events. And so we've been doing that for a while now. I would say we've mastered it ourselves. And so now I'm on a mission to share with as many people as possible, really how to maximize their business through virtual events. Because I truly believe that virtual events can be the best way to become an industry leader. And we could talk more about that today. But it wasn't always sunshine and rainbow. So I would love to share my story, Denise, if that's okay, on how we broke into this industry and what it means for your listeners. Is that okay?
I'll ask you that. How did you come up with this idea? I've been aware of virtual events for, 5, 6 years, but they were always, in my opinion, grossly expensive, massively expensive, and difficult. So I never really put any of my clients into any of those. We looked at them, but they all said, oh, geez, I can't afford this, which is a shame. And then here you come. So yeah, tell us your story. I would love to hear your story because listen, and I was talking with you in the green room just a minute ago. I have a client. She was a podcast guest here and she's now a client. And I was telling her as soon as I'm, get this up and running, I'm sending it to her because we were talking about marketing and how marketing has changed so quickly, so dramatically. What worked a year ago, 2 years ago, a month ago isn't working. It's not performing.
Exactly. We're having to
So I
find
think
new
you're stepping
ways.
into the breach.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me dive in and share my story, and we can kind of go into how the industry has changed a little bit and give some insights because ultimately, there's so many ways that the industry is changing between tech, between algorithms and everything. It's really crazy. But Denise, I never really anticipated being in this industry. I never anticipated joining, digital marketing and joining these high level masterminds. I mean, I started out just in college saying, hey, you know what? I want to do good. I love doing humanitarian work. So I said, I want to do something with business and humanitarian work. So that's what I went to school for, is just learning how I could cross, those two together. At the time, my wife and I, which at the time was my, girlfriend, we had a nonprofit. So we had this amazing message, and I was like, man, need to get this out into the world. But I loved business at the same time. But as you're aware, as your listeners may be aware, a lot of college students don't have much money. So that was me. I was actually, working part-time as a restaurant server, between classes, and working part-time in ministry as well. And so I didn't have much money at all, making about 20, maybe $30,000 a year if it was a good year. And so I said, there's got to be a way. And maybe you're listening to this and you've been in the same scenario. You're like, there's got to be a way to make more income. And so I went on this search. And this search was not an easy one. I tried everything and anything to make a dollar, if I'm going to be quite frank with you. Any ad I seen on Facebook, I was clicking it and checking it out. I was doing the stock trading, the drop shipping, the anything. I promise you, anything you can imagine, I tried. I even started a wholesale kettle corn company. Now, don't laugh, because I know you're probably in the background laughing at me like, what? Like, I literally tried everything, but nothing seemed to work. And I was like banging my head against the wall saying, why is this not working? And so one day I found myself very frustrated, and a friend reached out and said, hey, Michael, why don't you try real estate? Now, I'm not here today on this podcast to teach you about real estate, because I'm sure I would bore many of you. But he said, why don't you get into real estate? This could be, a really great avenue for you. You're a sharp guy. You love business. And I said, here's the thing, brother. His name was David. I said, David, don't have any money. That was the excuse I gave myself. I don't have any money. He said, I'm going to help you overcome that excuse. He said, you remember, you're only limited by your own creativity, which is a good bar and a good note for you all to write down as you're listening today, is you're only limited by your own creativity. And so he
I'm
told me
writing it
that.
now.
Yeah. And that was powerful for me. And so he told me that, and I was like, okay, let's look at this from different angles. He said, how about we do this? How about I mentor you and I show you how to do this yourself? And I said, yeah, go for it. But he said, well, we got to find a way that you're paying, though. He's like, you can't pay with money. So we got to find another way you're paying, because people who pay attention. Let me say that again. People who pay attention. And so he said, we got to find something. He said, how about you do this? I'm just starting my own education company. He said, why don't you come in and you just work for me? Why don't you come in? You can kind of be my assistant, help me with some marketing, help me with some sales stuff. He just kind of just be a little bit of everything in our business, and I'll coach you in real estate for free. At the time, I was trying anything and everything anyway, so I said, let's do it. And we shook hands. We said, okay, let's do it. Let's get to work. So from then on, he coached me weekly in real estate. But what I started to learn was very valuable insights from him. And I'm going to be honest, his business was just starting from ground level. He was probably at a place where a lot of you all are right now listening to this. He didn't have a bunch of leads in his CRM. He didn't have thousands of dollars to spend on marketing. Shoot, on Instagram, he only had probably about 500 people. But we went to work to say, how can we grow this thing? Because we knew we were only limited by our own creativity. So we said, we're at ground bottom here. How can we build up from here? And so I started studying the Russell Brunsons of the world. I started attending free classes and reading books and finding ways to really get our message and our mission out into the world. And what I found was my love for virtual events. It wasn't so easy at first. I started doing research, and at the time, this was back in like 2017, 2018, a bunch of people were raving about webinars. Russell Brunson, if you know who he is, one of the top digital marketers in the world, was
Absolutely.
exactly, he was talking about webinars and this perfect webinar framework. And so we said, you know what? We are going to try to run our first webinar. And so we built this out. It's so funny looking back now. I took weeks to build this thing out. I built all the copy for the landing pages and the emails, and we built out this funnel, which at the time I thought was the best looking funnel in the world, when in reality I look at it now and I cringe. But we just took action on what we were learning. And we ran that first webinar. And to my surprise, I remember it was, I think, a Friday evening when we ran this class. It was and just for you all that don't know what a webinar is, it's an online training, normally 60 to 90 minutes, where you are educating your audience and then selling a service or a product at the end. And so that's what we did. It was a Friday evening, and I was sitting at my kitchen table in the dark, watching David present and run this webinar while I was on the back end, just making sure all the tech was right. And I remember him dropping the link to the offer and saying, "Oh, we're getting ready to sell a bunch of products." I remember being so amped up, so excited. And to my surprise, after we dropped the link, I clicked refresh on ClickFunnels. Clicked refresh on ClickFunnels. I clicked it a third time, a fourth time. Nothing happened. Now, you may be listening to this and you're saying, wow, I expected that to be a different outcome. I expect you guys to make a lot of money on the first one. No, I'm going to be honest. We ended up making $0 in the first one.
And
But
that's a story I hear all the time. So,
yeah,
I belong to a lot of group. I watch people, I watch what they're doing. I'm like you, I'm massively curious. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what works, what doesn't
yep,
work. Why didn't this work? Oh, I see what you did there. And I'm armchair quarterbacking the whole time, but I'm learning. I
exactly.
suspect that's what you did too. But it's not at all, if y'all listening and you're getting ready to launch something like this, it's not at all unusual for crickets. That's all you're going to hear. But then next time, if you've marketed it properly and you've, gotten out in front of people, maybe a whole different story. But keep on going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. I'm glad you said that. It can be, when you're first starting out, an uphill battle, and that was it for us. I mean, you heard the story. It was an uphill battle, but I tell people I'm truly, truly committed to this framework in my life, and it's, you're always learning something new. So you learn, you test it out what you learn, then you take what you learn and you tweak it, and then you repeat. So let me say that again. You learn something new, you test it out, you implement it, you tweak it and fine tune it, and then you repeat the whole process again. You go learn more stuff from the internet or from your coaches. And so that's what we did. And that first one, although we made no money, we said there has to be a way for this to work. So we sat down and analyzed what we were doing wrong. And I'll get into some of those things in a few minutes as we, dive into the industry and what I see a lot of people doing wrong. But we went and we tested again, and we made a little money the second time. I can't remember how much it was, to be honest. It was very little. I think only a couple $100 or a couple $1,000. It was very minimal. But one day, and this is where everything changed for me, Denise, and this is the power of getting the right coach. One day, randomly, while we're in this chaos of trying to run these free webinars, somebody, and I didn't know him at the time, and I truly believe he was like an angel of some sort, because I'm going to be honest, since this call, I've never really talked to this guy ever again. But he reached out. He said, "Hey, I see what you guys are doing online. I think there's a better way." When somebody comes to you personally and they text you or they call you and they say, "Hey, what you're doing is wrong," and obviously we knew it was wrong, it wasn't working, and he said, "There's a better way," you're going to listen, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And so that's what happened. And so we said, "Okay, you're telling us there's a better way and you see what we're doing wrong. We'll listen." And so we sat down in Zoom for an hour with this guy named Alex. I didn't know him. David knew him a very little bit, but he just was, out of the kindness of his heart, wanted to help us. And so he coached us through, really what we use now is 5-day challenges. And if you don't know what that is, pretty much it's just a 5-day virtual event experience that you build to take your clients from cold prospects to hot customers, and really just use to get them closer to their goals. And so he said, "Hey, you guys are doing webinars, which they work, and we use a lot of webinars now." But he said, "I think you guys, for what you're doing, you need to do a lot of these 5-day challenges. They're crushing it right now." We had no clue what this guy was talking about, to be honest. We were like, "What are you talking about? We just learned this webinar thing, and you're telling us to learn this whole other model." And so, but we took action. He said, here's step one, step two, step three, just do this. We said, we're going to do it. And we don't know how we're going to do it. But we launched to our very, very, very minimal list of less than 100 people, very only a few hundred people on social media, maybe like 500, 600 people. And we ran our first 5-day virtual challenge. And I found myself at the very same position a few months later, sitting at the kitchen table on a Friday evening, clicking refresh. But to my surprise, this time we made $30,000. Now, remember, for me, this was big. For me, this was amazing. That's what I made in a year.
I
This
know. And
was
I'm sitting here going, there's a lot of people, me included, who would think that was a gift.
exactly, exactly. I think so many times, I would say you probably would agree with this. We see all these flashy ads and we see all these flashy numbers being flown around. I just made $2 million with this funnel. And it's like, okay, I just want to make 10,000. I just would like to make 1,000 in per month, right? And
Pay the house note this month. That's all I need to know. So,
exactly. And you can do that. You can
and
do
things are
that
tough right now.
quickly.
So I'm so glad you're on the show because people are thinking, I marketing isn't working. Everything I've been doing in the past is what it worked before. It's not working now. I need some help. And here you are. Thank goodness.
Yes, I'm so excited because this framework that we learned, the 5-day challenge, actually fits perfect with the times we're in, and I'll explain. But long story short, just to summarize this whole story here, because I took you guys on a journey, we made $30,000. It was phenomenal. My life was changed. I'm like, I just made what I made in a year, which I was working for free. It was a barter. He was coaching me in real estate, which I ended up going to make money in real estate. So it was a good trade-off. But long as I mean, we made $30,000 and that opened up my mind to the possibilities. And it should open up your mind to the possibilities that are out there. And so what ended up happening is we got really good at that 5-day challenge model, like really good. We dialed it in and we said, you know what? We could go do this same exact event multiple times and we think we could scale it up. And so over the course of tweaking and some new frameworks, which I'm going to teach you today here within the next 30 minutes, we were able to scale up David's education company to $750,000 in less than a year. Again, totally mind blown. I'm not here to give you big numbers because for some of you, like I said, you may only be like, hey, I just want to pay off my car note, my mortgage. That's cool, but that was possible for us. And I'm like, everybody should know about this because that kind of money can change your life, right? You could change your family's life, your legacy. So today, what I would love to do, if you're cool with it, Denise, is kind of dive in and talk about the tweaks we made from that free webinar to the 5-day challenge, and then how we optimize that 5-day challenge and how people here listening today can make it work for their business so that they can go out and make more money, but more importantly, make more impact. Is that cool with you?
Absolutely. And I normally don't have to do this until we're further into the podcast, but I know good and well we're not going to get as much out of this as I want to. You have so many stories, you're so enthusiastic. So I would like to invite you to come back and share more stories. I mean, we'll get as far as we can get today with the hour we've got, but would you come back another time?
Oh, you don't even have to ask.
Okay,
I'll
good.
be here.
You see,
I
I do
love,
it on the radio. It's very tricky. You can't tell me no. But
right? Exactly.
I would
No,
love for
I
you
would
to
love
come
to.
back. So do whatever you want to do. I'm going to try to stay out of your way. I'm scribbling like crazy and I will mute and just jump back in when I've got a question.
100%. Feel free to
Okay.
stop me anytime, you all. I speak very fast, so if you're here, I would recommend as we dive deeper into this, grab a pen and paper. But more importantly, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, you all. Like I know we're not at the end of the show, but subscribe so you can get this replay later and don't forget about it. And plus, she's putting a lot of hard work into this show, so she deserves it. She deserves it for sure. Having hundreds of episodes is not easy to do.
No, it's not 16 years old. It's old enough to drive.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy.
Seriously. Okay, start talking. I'm going to start writing.
Okay. Awesome. Amazing. So you all, so a lot of people come to me and say, Michael, this is amazing. I love your story. And we hear you're passionate about these virtual events and these 5-day challenges. And they're like, but how do I make that work for me? Because it seems like you all were a unicorn story, right? It seems like you were one of these stories you hear out there that's their once in a lifetime kind of deal. I, I would say I get where you're coming from because I'm going to be honest, I thought that same thing when it was happening. But what we ended up doing is we found so much success in David's business. We've repeated it over and over and over again in other people's businesses. I went on after people heard what we were doing, we went on to create a full-blown agency where we do this full-time 24/7 for people all around the nation. And so we've done this for the past 6 years now ish for other entrepreneurs just like yourself. And so we've seen people make $20,000 an event all the way up to $5 to $7 million per event that we've ran. So just know that this is doable for you. And so what I want to do today is talk about some of the things that set us apart and how we were able to crush it in the beginning, even with no ads, even with a very little following, what we did to scale up, because that's the big question. Well, Michael, how did you make 750,000 dollars from zero followers practically, from practically zero list? How did you do that? And the word is leverage. Simple word, leverage. You may hear it thrown around a lot on the internet. You may hear it thrown around a lot in books you read, but truly it was the game changer for us. It truly was the catalyst to scale. And so let's dive into that.
Yeah, let me ask a quick question. So I'm guessing that what you're referencing here is the concept of leveraging other people's audiences.
You
I do
are
it
hitting
here.
the nail on the head, man.
Okay, good.
You are so you are way ahead. You're way ahead of us. So yes, and so I'm going to get into the model in a minute, but I want to talk about the leverage piece and leveraging other people's resources. And so for us, we had to ask ourselves, and this is the same thing you need to ask yourself, is what resources do I have available and what resources do I not have? For us, our resources was our voice. David, phenomenal speaker. David also had phenomenal products. People, when they came into the virtual event and they attended it, it was phenomenal. People fell in love with David. They fell in love with the message. They fell in love with the content. But he had a great service he was selling as well. People loved the service. So all around, we knew we had great assets to deliver people, but our downfall was we didn't have the people, right? That was our lack. And that may be some of you all here today. You may say, I'm just starting out. I have good products. I just don't have people. And so we said, hey, how can we leverage relationships? How can we leverage people who already have built that part? They've spent thousands of dollars. They've spent, you know, hours and hours and hours building their own list. We can come in and run these events to their audience and we split profits. And the results were staggering. And so I remember our first partnership, we said, okay, we got to get creative here. Who has our people? And we were a real estate education company. And so we said, we have to find people who, relate to our message. And so we said, who is that? And so we looked through our contact books, people we met at masterminds in the past and events in the past. And we found this one individual that we remembered we had built a relationship and he taught budgeting, right? So he taught budgeting. And if in our world, we were like, this is perfect. What happens after people learn how to budget their money and get their money right? They're going to learn how to invest it, right? And so this guy didn't teach investing much. He just taught how to get your money right so that you can, have more freedom in your life. And so we said, okay, let's go to this guy and let's see if he would be interested in partnering with us. We have the investing product. He has the people who are primed for investing. Let's go and do an event. And so we went to him creating a win-win-win scenario. And so if you're here today and you've tried building partnerships, probably the reason why the partnership didn't work or maybe didn't come to fruition is because it wasn't a win-win-win. It wasn't a win for their audience, right? That's first and foremost. It has to be a major, major win for the other person's list, for their audience, their reach. Because if not, nobody wants to give up their list. Nobody wants to give up their audience because it's a precious asset, right? It's a precious, valuable thing. And so we went in and we made it super irresistible for his audience. We said, hey, we're going to run this 5-day challenge. We're going to throw in all these amazing bonuses. At the end, they're going to have a chance to purchase something. But if not, they'll still have attended a 5-day event with so much value, So that was a check marked off. Great. they're going to find value. It's a win for them. Second thing you have to ask is, how can we make it a win for the partner that we're going to be, shaking hands with and putting ink on paper with? For him and for the people you talk to, it's probably going to be, it was different, right? We came in thinking, oh, maybe he'll want 10% of all the profits. Well, no, he wanted a little bit more. I think it was like 25, 30%. But in our eyes, again, leverage, we didn't have the audience before. So we were willing to pay a little bit more in profits and split that with him because we didn't have the asset ourselves. We didn't have anybody to sell to ourselves. And so we had to come and have a personal conversation with him. And this is a common question I get all the time, Denise, is what's a good affiliate and partnership percentage? It depends. You need to have a personal conversation with those that you're working with, because for some people their list may be so precious that they say, you know what, we'd have to split everything 50-50. And then you have to decide, is it worth it for you on the delivery side, because you're going to be delivering the actual product or the service like we were doing. We had the education product that we had to deliver on after. And so we had to say, hey, to make it worth it for this individual, they wanted XYZ amount. Is that worth it for us? And so once we were able to agree on something that made it worth it for them, we had to, again, the last win in the scenarios here, the win-win-win was us. We just had to ask ourselves, okay, will this be a win in the long run? And most of the time, if you can find, common ground, it will be a win for you. And so does that make sense so far? Like I just want to make sure I'm talking very fast, but I want to make sure that this partnership play here is very clear. I would love to hear your feedback.
Very clear. And listen, I have Southern ears and I understand you just fine. Every once in a while, I have to say, hey, slow it down. I have Southern ears, but no, you're fine. But I get it. And here's something that has happened to me, and I'm sure it'll happen again. I will get in a situation kind of like what you're describing, win-win. Uh-oh, there's the last win. I always somehow manage to leave me out of it until the very end and go, you know what? I got so excited. I got so rose-colored glasses that I didn't realize I'm essentially going to be working for free. So how do you get out in front of that when you're creating the win-win-win? Because it is way too easy to go, oh, we can do this, and I don't mind working for free for a little while. Well, yeah, I do actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's again setting expectations, at the forefront and saying, hey, what is worth it for me? What would make this for me doable, right? And so for everybody, it's going to be a little bit different. And I think because everybody's time's different, everybody's income is different, our expectations completely are different. So I would say, you need to sit down and say, hey, what would make this really work for me? What would make this worth it for me? Because we don't want to work for free. Ultimately, that's what we're here in business for. Business is to generate revenue, right? But sometimes there have been scenarios where I've taken a lesser cut or I've even worked for free because I know the relationship will lead to bigger and better things, right? And so you kind of have to ask
I
yourself in
just
that
don't,
scenario,
yeah, I've done the same. I just don't want to make a habit of it.
yeah, you definitely don't want to make a habit of it because it is business, right? Um, for me, like going back, this is a little bit different scenario, but where I was bartering those services with David, and he was coaching me real estate. Eventually, and this is a little bit different example, but eventually there was a point one time where I had to go to David and be like, "Hey, I was working for free. No, I think it's time my value has brought me to a place where I can get paid now, right? And so sometimes there's personal conversations you have to have that may be a little scary, maybe a little daunting, but I promise you the scary situations and those scary conversations often lead to the best results and the best outcomes for your business and your future.
You said that because honestly, it's the pre-conversation that you're having in your own head. It never comes true. You're like, what was I worried about? So I've done that so often. I'll just about talk myself into something or out of something. The reality is completely different.
Yeah. And I've learned, and this is super hard for me, so I'm not going to say I'm the best at it, but I've learned that it's always best to have the hard conversations as soon as possible. And that could be, you're hiring somebody and you have to let somebody go. It could be that, you have to tell a contractor, hey, we're not hitting our numbers like on our ads, and we're going to have to find a way to, optimize or else, there's so many, there's so many different hard conversations we have in business and even life. And I've learned the more you run away from those conversations, um, it just puts off, um, you know, let me say this. Recently, there was a conversation that I put off for too long, and this is a prime example. I'm not going to give exact scenario, but conversation I should have had a lot sooner with somebody in my company, and it just boiled down to fear, eating at my heart and my mind. And so I never had the conversation until it was too late, and by that time, it really hurt the individual that I didn't have the conversation sooner. And because of my lack of leadership and my lack of just taking action fast, it ended up hurting somebody in the end. So just know, ask yourself in those times, why am I delaying? And then, find a way to move into action fast. So
The term take action. And I am a huge fan of Dr. Napoleon Hill, and my Wednesday co-host is Ben Gay III, who was the final mentee of Dr. Napoleon Hill.
wow.
And everybody knows, the book Think and Grow Rich. But here's the thing. People, I just don't understand the book. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Napoleon Hill will tell you hundreds of times, take action. That's really the message. Take action. And you're saying it, and I keep writing it down because I'm with you. Take action. I don't know why I'm writing down something I already know, but I'm doing it.
Exactly. Exactly. Hey, it's always good to remind yourself. It's always good to remind yourself. So, that partnership, that's what we did. We went in and fast forward, we just built that out. And that first partnership with that individual, I think he had like a Facebook group of maybe like 30,000 people. He had an email list of maybe like 10 to 15,000 people. We just did some light promo. And the cool thing is that partner, all he did was promote our event. All he did was we had the 5-day challenge. We
Yeah.
gave him the assets and he just sent the text we gave him. He just sent the emails we gave him. He just posted in the group. And that first event we made close, it was right around $100,000. So we went from 30,000 to about 100,000 the second event, which blew my mind again. But so we just rinsed and repeated. We just kept finding new partners and found ways to continue with those existing partners, doing it maybe twice a year, maybe every quarter. And it was phenomenal what happened. So that was the one thing that I'll say: get good at building relationships, you all. You never know the relationships. Let me say this: don't build the relationships with an intent to receive right away, right? I don't want you to build relationships with intents of gaining, but more of just giving, because that's what we did in this scenario. With this first partner, we actually showed up and did a free training to his group without ever getting paid, a dime. I think it was like maybe 45, 60 days before we ever ran that first 5-day challenge together. We actually just did a totally free webinar, no sales at the end, to his audience just to add value. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes nurturing and building a relationship long term with somebody and adding value truly to them and their audience. And so ask yourself today, who do I need to start getting in rooms with? Who do I need to start adding value to and truly building a relationship with, so that maybe possibly one day in the future there would be chances of collaboration? And that's what we've gotten really good at. And with today's digital age, there's no shortage on how to connect with people. There's LinkedIn, there's all these digital masterminds, these Facebook groups. You can literally build connections overnight. One thing I think as business owners we tend to forget to do is truly keep networking as at the forefront of our mind in our business. It can lead to so many great things. And that's what this podcast is. This podcast here is a networking mechanism. Me and Denise getting to know each other.
Nope,
I'm sure
we did
Denise,
not.
how many people have you went to work with, Denise, just through this podcast alone?
Oh, a good solid number. But I started this podcast honestly because if you've listened to me before, you know that I identify myself as a highly committed introvert. I'm not shy and I have very few filters. In fact, I don't have any filters according to my mom. But this was a way for me to get my voice heard, to connect with people from all over the world, and then connect you with my audience, your audience, I often will say, listen, I've got some other podcast hosts that I would love to introduce you to. I mean, I'm constantly connecting and networking, and I don't leave the house to do it.
Yeah, I love it. So the tools like this, powerful resource. She's living proof. And so like like I said, I think we just forget the power of it. And you look at some of the biggest entrepreneurs, some of them I'm not too fond of in their belief systems and things of that nature, but it's true just looking at the outcomes, like Ty Lopez, for example. He's one of those guys that you've seen on YouTube 10 years ago making YouTube videos in his garage in front of his Lamborghini, right? But a lot of people don't know how Ty Lopez got to where he is today, multi millionaire, is because he early on in his career, he got good at networking. He was throwing private masterminds, he was throwing free events for entrepreneurs. He was getting people in the room together and making deals happen. Same with Dan Fleischman. I don't know if you know who Dan is or not, but look him up. He's done the same exact thing. He's built his businesses around his network. And so that's been really valuable for us. But now I would like to transition in talking about the actual mechanism, right? Because I wanted to get that out of the way because a lot of people say, oh, that's a one-time thing, that's a unicorn. But no, it truly came with time of building those partnerships. But if you have an existing audience, good news is it's only easier for you. It's only easier for you if you have an existing
It is.
audience.
And let me jump in here because I wrote down Alex, and you've mentioned entrepreneurs a lot. Listen, I have always said, and I will continue to say it, that entrepreneurial minded people can be the most gracious and giving people in the world. Don't be afraid to contact us or connect with us or ask questions.
Yeah.
We do want to see you succeed. And, your friend Alex, he did that for you. No expectations, just wanted to help. He saw a gap in your
And
education and he
I'm still
fixed it.
talking about him today.
That's
Like I'm
exactly right.
And it was
Exactly right.
because just one phone call. That's all it was. And I love that. So that's such a good note. And you never know, you all. You never know. And this is just in life in general. Who needs that text? Who needs that phone call? Who needs those few words from you? Obviously we did at the time. It went on to make us millions of dollars in revenue for our clients, for David, and it was just because of one person. The catalyst was him. So I love that you said that. You never underestimate that. You can never underestimate that for sure. And I can already tell you have a giving
Your
spirit
way.
yourself. I can already tell you have a giving spirit yourself.
Well, I like to think I do. I'm not entirely positive, but I'm like your friend Alex, when I see a gap somewhere, I'll say, hey, listen, um, I think I might be able to help. Do you have a moment to chat? I may never speak with them again. But if I was able to help, then I can move on to the next thing. We all
Yeah,
do that. We all do that. So thank you for that. But listen, I'm going to stay out of I'm trying to stay out of your way, but this is fascinating. So keep on talking.
awesome, cool. So this whole mechanism though, you can go as deep or as simple as you want with it, right? So I would like just to spend a few minutes because I know we don't have much more time. We've been going quite a bit here. But I want to go over high level, and maybe on part two, we'll come back and go a little bit deeper. But really, this mechanism is all about taking your clients or your potential clients, I should say, on a journey. On a journey, really. What we're doing is we're asking where are they at now and where do they want to be? So if you own a software company, just for an example, you may be saying, okay, where are my potential users, my potential customers at now, and where do they want to go? And so for you as a software company, you may say, hey, they may be using all these other softwares. They may be confused at what to do. They may be frustrated because the softwares they're using don't work correctly. And the dream would be that they have one solution that makes their life easier, their business faster, getting sales faster. And so what we do with these 5-day virtual events is we fill the gap. Write that down. Fill the gap. You have to find a way to fill the gap between where they are now and where they want to be. So if you're a fitness coach, you know where they are right now is they are wanting to lose 50 pounds. That's their dream destination. So they can go and spend more time with their kids on the basketball court or on the soccer field so that they can wrestle with their kids again, so that they can walk up the stairs without huffing and puffing, right? But where they're at now is they may not have a gym membership. They may not have a nutrition plan. They don't even know where to start, right? In that middle area, that gray area is where you come in and your virtual event comes in. And so what we do is we build out these 5-day virtual experiences where we take them on a journey to get them closer from where they are now to where they want to go and where they want to be. Now, disclaimer, 5 days is not going to help somebody lose 50 pounds, right? Like, there's just no way that's going to happen, but it can start the process.
Really? You mean all
Okay.
that crap I read on the internet's not true? You just
Right?
broke my heart.
Yeah, sorry to disappoint you. I'm sorry. But uh but it's we're honest, they're not going to experience massive transformation. Now they could potentially transformation in 5 days, but they can start their transformation journey. And so what happens is we use these 5-day events to start the transformation. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, and start the process so that by the end of the 5 days that you spend together, they have made massive progress, and they're saying, I want more, right? So let's imagine you work with somebody, and we're talking about the fitness space, and you get somebody in 5 days to set up their gym membership. You get somebody to find an accountability partner. You find somebody to get their nutrition plan, and they maybe even start working out 2 or 3 times during that 5-day period. At the end of it, they're going to say, wow, I've made more progress with Denise, with Michael, than I have in years trying to do this by myself. And so when that 5-day
Back to
virtual event
take
ends,
action, right?
exactly, taking
Okay,
action. And
keep going.
that's why we call it a challenge, is because the challenge is called that because we're challenging people to take action during the 5 days. See, a lot of webinars and seminars, the reason why I truly believe in the beginning when we were first starting out, there's a few things we were doing wrong, but when we were trying webinars is because our business model works really well when people actually can take a little bit of action and find results first. And so on those 60 to 90-minute webinars, you can't build a whole lot of trust with people. You can't get them to start taking action, but you can in 5 days. And so that's what the challenges are for, is used to push people to take action. And so, a little side note, during every day of our challenge, we're giving them some kind of homework to do. And now you say, Michael, that sounds like school, right? We just call it homework, or you can call it assignments. We give them one thing to take action on. And so, like I mentioned, for the health and wellness space, that may be, hey, today your only assignment is we're going to show you in the class, we're going to teach you how to build your own nutrition plan. So your assignment tonight is to spend the next 24 hours between tonight and the next class that we meet together and build your own nutrition plan using these frameworks. And then boom, they come back on the next day and they show up and they say, Denise, I got my nutrition plan. I'm so excited. I got it laminated. I got it hung up in my fridge. I'm excited. And they're already starting to experience growth. The challenge is provide
Whelmed.
accountability, you all. That's all
Right,
it is. They
right.
provide accountability because a lot of people don't have it. A lot of people don't
And
have it.
if you're not overwhelming them, look, I do 3 things a day. I have index cards. I write down what's most critical for me to do today, 1, 2, and 3, because I know when I get to part 4, I'm done. I'm already tired. I've
Yeah.
already told myself, oh, geez, really? So if I stick with those 3 important things, I do not overwhelm myself, or I try not to.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love that. And that's we never we give out sometimes, depending on the client, a little bit more than one assignment per day. Sometimes we'll give them a little bit more, but yeah, I love that. We don't want to overwhelm the individuals. And so we fill the gap with our event. And so what we do is, when we're first working with our clients and building these out, we say, okay, what content do we need to teach during the 5 days that it would, really get them closer to their goal? And so just a side note here, these 5-day virtual experiences, these virtual events we're talking about, they're not hours and hours per day. They're an hour to hour and a half per day. So you're looking at Monday through Friday is how we normally run them. And they are, um, you know, 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the event and how we have it structured. So there is a micro commitment there because they have to show up every day, but the macro commitment is that they have to show up for 5 days straight, right? And so you'll really, people that show up 5 days to learn something, that normally means they're pretty pretty serious about something. And that's why we love these events, because it separates the people who are tire kickers from the people who are super serious about making a change and working with you. So we always sit down and say, okay, how can we fill the gap with amazing content that's going to help them get to their next goal? But here's the thing. Unfortunately, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to cram as much information as I can inside of this 5 days. I'm just going to over deliver, over deliver, over deliver, and overwhelm them with information. That's good in theory, but why would you want somebody overwhelmed? Nobody likes being overwhelmed. And so it's not always about the quantity of what you're teaching, but more about the quality, right? Same thing with attendance. I have a lot of people that come to me and say, Michael, my virtual events, I only had 10 people show up. Again, I would rather have quality than quantity. But if you can get the two together, it's golden, right? So going back to the content though, and I'll explain that in a little bit more depth later or on part two. But so it's not always about adding more content, but saying, hey, what is the right content to teach? And the reason why these challenges work so well is that they are great at changing belief systems, great at changing habits. And so we have to ask ourselves, what do we need to talk about? What do we need to teach that is going to get them to break the old habits they have when they come in and are going to help them overcome all the self-limiting beliefs they had or, false belief systems they had before they came into this event. And so, for example, for our real estate education company, we were teaching people how to get into real estate. And we know people come into our events thinking real estate's only for wealthy people. Real estate's only for those that have massive real estate experience. Real estate is only for all these misbeliefs when we know it's not true. We know it's not true. They may not know it's not true. So we had to educate them as well on why they can do this and change their belief system. So remember, as you're crafting your event, it's not always about teaching as much as possible, but more of, hey, what's the content that I can teach that's going to help shift their mindset, then also get them in the right direction. Denise, does that make sense?
It really does, because we can, excuse me, as I need to choke on you. Hang on a minute. Cough on you. We can often talk ourselves out of things because we don't know what we don't know. And for what I'm hearing from you is that you're teaching people what they do know already, what they should know, and what they can know. Does that make sense? Oh, did I lose you? Michael, it looks like you're muted.
Oh, my bad, y'all. I was coughing.
Okay.
I was coughing myself.
I
So
don't know about you. When my cats yawn, I yawn with them. It's just one of those things. So I started coughing on you. But did what I said make sense?
yeah, it makes sense completely. I was listening
Okay,
as
good.
well. So
I never know what I'm going to say until I just heard myself say it. So sometimes I'm like, what?
yeah,
So,
it does make sense. And so
okay, good.
I always like to take a pause as well for the listeners just to make sure they catch up and get a breather and say, okay, what we just said. So really you all, the content is one of the most important pieces. Obviously, you need to have people there to teach, but getting that down and getting really good at that can change everything. And that's what happened. We started getting really good at our content, really laying it out where people were coming in and having these transformational experiences. And then, we were running these other people's audiences, and people just fell in love with these events because they came in one way, but they left another. They left never being able to think the same way, act the same way. And if you can get really good at that, that's what's going to separate you from the competitors, right? And so going to the conversation on what's different now, I'm going to be honest, at the time of this recording, this show is 16 years old. So who knows? Maybe somebody will be listening to this in 16 more years. But at the time of recording this show, we're in a more of a economic slump, right? I would say some call it a recession, some don't. So people aren't spending as much money. So there's a few things you have to do to capture their attention and keep their attention longer to be able to convert them. And one of those is having truly a great product. You see, prior to today and in past years, especially during the COVID time, all these internet warriors were out there and these all new digital marketers were pushing products that were mediocre, and people still today are pushing products that are mediocre, and it has caused a lot of distrust, right? Oh, everybody's selling courses, everybody's coaching, everybody's speaking, everybody's doing digital marketing and Facebook ads. But truly, what really will set you apart is creating good, good products. I'm talking about products when people purchase them or they attend the events, they truly know that you care and truly can see that you've put preparation into them. Now, I know that that's not the only factor because you can prepare, you can prepare, you can prepare, you can build the best products in the world, but if nobody's consuming them, obviously, it's all in vain, right? But I would say maybe not. But I know there's a second part to it, is what I'm saying. But that will be one thing if you're running marketing currently today is ask yourself, how can we get 1% better every day at what we're doing? How can we improve not just our marketing? Because people are always asking, hey, how can I make my ads cheaper? But let's focus on giving a good customer experience. Once you can do that, you will have raving fans, you will get referrals, listen, we have one client, she is phenomenal. I'm just going to give you an example. She's phenomenal. We started working with her about 3 years ago. She's made, now this is I would say a bigger case study. So I don't expect everybody to step into this type of results, but just kind of hear the basics of what I'm saying here in the frameworks. She's made about $10 million over the past 3 years. But what she's done well, and I'll say, is people rave about her virtual events. People rave about her mentorships. They rave about her products, and it has gone viral. Literally, we have people, we run the same event 2 to 3 times a year. The same people will attend the event 2 to 3 times, meaning somebody may attend in January, but when May rolls around, they're saying, I want to attend again. And it's the same exact event. Why? Because it's so well built and thought out. It's so now I don't want that to stop you from taking action, right? Because I truly feel like sometimes perfectionism can stop people from going out there and hitting their goals and reaching who they need to reach. But you still need to put some thought into it. And that she mastered that. And she's had so many people come through referrals. She is now an industry leader, really built off of the fact that she cares for people and she has truly built a well good product. So that's, if you can do that, you'll thrive. And Denise, I'm sure you've seen it before. I'm sure you've seen people that are selling mediocre products, and we don't want to, I hate to call them out because you hate to burst their bubble, but it's true. They truly aren't building something with the customer in mind, and the results are showing.
You to show. Listen, when I first started my business, not my podcast, that's 16 years old, but my business is about 20 years old now. Geez, I just gave myself a heart attack. I didn't realize it was that long ago. But I would see, Tony Robbins is still around, obviously, but there was a whole group of people that were Tony Robbins adjacent. They're all gone now.
Right.
And we all know why. So I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Love it. So listen, you all, I mean, whenever it comes to implementing this, what I normally tell people is start with the content, but know that this model does really well with high ticket products. And so, what we normally do for our clients, we'll come in, we set up the teaching, but then we say, okay, what is the goal of this event at the same time? We know what we're going to teach, but what do we want them to take action on? And this works really well with selling higher ticket products. I'm talking like 1,000, 2,000 plus dollars, because people spend more time with you. One of my friends one time mentioned this to me, and I don't know where he got this from, so I can't cite this accurately, but he told me, he said, Michael, people who spend about an hour of time with you have about $1,000 worth of trust with you. Let me say that again a little bit differently. If you can get people to spend about an hour with you, you have built about $1,000 worth of trust with them. And I was like, oh, that kind of explains why on webinars, people struggle to sell 3, 5, $10,000 programs because you've only spent an hour, hour and a half with them. But on challenges, I can see why that works, because we spend 5+ hours with people and we have an easy time. I'm not going to say easy, but we have a more, I would say, simplified version of selling 5 to 10,000 hour programs, 20,000 hour programs. So I'll say I love this model because you can really build a lot of trust fast. When people go through this event model and they learn from you, like you can't fake 5 days, you all. You truly can't fake 5 days of education. And so you become the industry leader. You become somebody that they look up to on that topic in 5 days. And because of that, at the end, a lot of people are willing to invest a premium to spend more time with you, to purchase your products, your services. And so I'll say this as we end this out, because I think, Denise, we could go a lot deeper. And I'm going to give them a call to action here in just a few minutes. But I'll say this.
Rush, we've got about 10 more minutes.
Okay, great. So I'll say this. Go ahead and ask what would be the product or service or offering that I can put at the end of this event that would make it worth my time. Because I want to be honest, a 5 day challenge is a lot of work, spending 5 hours. I mean, or if you do an hour and a half, you're spending upwards of 7 to 10 hours one week just teaching and educating and spending time with people. So ask yourself, what is the product I would put at the back end of my event? But the product, like I mentioned, needs to help them get closer to their goal. So whatever your challenge is about, the product should be related to that event. And so just know, don't be afraid to charge a premium and charge higher ticket. You may not even have a higher ticket program, which is fine. But a lot of people are saying, well, Michael, what should I sell? What should I charge? I've only ever sold a $500 product, but I've wanted to sell a 2,000 or 3,000. Go for it. I promise you'll be surprised at the results. But you all listen, what I'll say is, you can make this, I said this at the beginning, you can make this as simple or as complex as you want. If you're just starting out and you don't have a team, make it as simple as you want. If I were you and you were just starting out, you didn't have money to spend on all this fancy tech, you don't have all the money to spend on all these fancy automations and all this stuff, start out with just inviting people to a free Facebook group. Tell them, hey, on this day or on this week, I'm going to go live for 5 days straight in this Facebook group. And then at the end, you can send people invoices who are interested in your products or service. Like, that's no barrier to entry. Anybody can go set up a Facebook group.
And it works very well.
Exactly. Anybody can go into Stripe and create a Stripe account and send invoices to people. So, like, don't let it delay you. Don't let the thought of this big mechanism, this big machine stop you. And, but you can make it as complex as you want. If you have a team, like, you can build out all the robust automations, you can build out all the robust ads and things of that nature. But that's what we do. That's what we're good at, and that's what our team does for you. So I would recommend you take an assessment today where you're at. You're like, Michael, this framework seems really good. I would love to learn more. I would love to try to find a way to put this into my business. What I would recommend you do is take inventory where you at. Are you at the place where you just want to start out running a 5 day event yourself, or do you want to hire a team, or do you have a team you can do it for you? But I'll say this, go ahead and put a date in the calendar for when you want to do this. Now, this is where it gets scary. This is where it gets really, it can kind of be daunting, because it's like, oh, I'm actually going to do this. But I tell people, go ahead and, like, 60 to 90 days, go ahead and just put 5 days that you can do consecutively. We like to do a Monday through Friday. We normally like to do the evenings, around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My time is normally when we do these, but your audience is different. You may do it at lunchtime because you work with certain individuals, but just set like 60 and 90 days from now. Say, I'm going to do my 5 day challenge during this week. I'm picking October, I'm picking December, I'm picking November. This is going to be and I want you to go ahead and do that now, because if you don't do that now, you don't put a date to it, there's a good chance you'll never do it. You'll think, oh, this is awesome, and then you actually never go and take action.
Nope. If you don't write it down, that's
Exactly.
something else Napoleon Hill would say to Ben Gay. Write it down. Ben, write it down. Because if you don't, it's lost.
Yeah, exactly. So I recommend to everybody, write it down, put it somewhere, hang it up in your office. Hey, this is going to be my day. Put in your Google Calendar. I don't know. but just put it up somewhere and look at it daily. Look at it daily. And so, you know, Denise, we could go, way, way deeper into this. I would love to come part two and actually talk about a lot of the promotional side of things, because there's a lot of things you can do if you have an existing audience,
Yeah.
to really just drive people into this machine that you've built, right? And to drive people into this virtual event. But let me say this, there's a lot of funnels out there and all these processes that work. I'm going to be honest, virtual events are just my favorite. Like there's ebook funnels, there's all these things. All of them will work. You just have to find one that works for you, meaning one that works for your industry, one that works for your company. I just have found that virtual events and this 5-day challenge model just works really well for me because I love spending time with my people and I love building transformation. So just know, ask yourself at the same time, do I need to stick with what I'm doing? Because I don't want you guys to leave something that's working really well. But maybe if you haven't found something that
I'll
works
do
well,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe
You know,
maybe look into this. So
what I wanted to ask you, Michael, is I've had a note just pop up in my email. It said, I don't even know what a 5-day challenge is. Can he explain really quickly for somebody like me who has no clue what y'all talking about?
yeah, I mean it's as simple as I stated it earlier. It's simply literally a 5-day virtual event. You're just popping up in Zoom or Facebook Live and just teaching for 5 days. That's all it is. Now we can get super detailed on how we build out the teachings and things of that nature, but it's truly just 5 days of you consecutively showing up for attendees and teaching about your industry, your niche, right? So for example, like I use the fitness niche. So it would be, hey, I'm going to run this 5-day challenge for people who want to lose 50 pounds. And I'm going to teach you in 5 days how to get on the fast track. And so you're just going to show up Monday through Friday, just teaching these registrants, how to do that. So for example, we ran an event last week. There's a lady that I work with. She teaches people how to get business funding and grants. So she ran a 5-day event. She invited her audience. She said, hey, I'm going to be going live for 5 days straight. Obviously, it's about an hour each day. And she said, I'm just going to teach you guys how to start applying for grants that you didn't know were available for your business. And at the end, she sold, a service where she writes grants for people, and it worked really well. People came in, they were educated on the grants, the business funding, and then at the end, she said, "Hey, this may seem a lot for you. If you want me to do it for you, here's the link to purchase the service, and we'll actually
Mm.
do it for you in half the time." So
And
I
yeah,
hope that makes sense. It's really
it
just
does.
an educational
It
virtual event.
does. And I've had a conversation with a friend of mine recently, and as you know, I'm an introvert. There are no pictures of me on the internet. I'm never on camera. It's just not going to happen. Or as we say in the deep south, that ain't happening, hun. I just won't do it. And so, and I've been this way since I was about 10 years old. This is not me just being odd. I've always hated cameras pointed at me. But we were talking the other day. She said, Denise, you've got to get on camera. I said, no, I don't. I really don't, and I'm not going to. But there's something now called faceless videos that I've been looking at, and I'm thinking, there are a lot of people like me who do not want to be on camera all the time. They do want to have a podcast. They do want to do other things. How about if I teach them how I do it without ever being on camera?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously this model works best if you're on camera. I'm going to be honest with you.
Right. I
I'm going to
know
be
it will,
honest.
but it's
Yeah.
still never going to happen. So,
Yeah. I think some people just don't
no,
like that. I mean, you can build
no.
businesses, where you could teach other people how to do this and hire other people to do this for you. You can have other team members do
Right.
this for you. So it doesn't always have to be you, but I would say it does definitely work better, if you can
I've
show your
heard
face
that.
because
Yeah.
you become the authority, right? And we want you to be in front of everybody.
Oh, we are going to run out of time. How do people find you? I mean, you're definitely coming back for part two, and I'm guessing maybe part three. We'll see where we go with it. But I want you to show people as much as you can during these conversations to help them. And thank you for sharing your journey and your insights with us. But before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? And where can people connect with you? How can they find you?
Yeah, I would say number one, one thing I'll leave you with today, and this is a word for somebody, is that you have what it takes. A lot of people, they listen to this and they're saying, "Oh, I just feel like I'm not worthy to get up and teach in front of people. I just don't feel like I'm, have enough information." Like, you are good at what you do. You are worthy enough to teach other people. And remember, you don't have to be 10 steps ahead of somebody to teach somebody. All you have to be is one or two steps ahead, right? You don't have to know A to Z, but what if you know A to Y, or A to X, and the other people, somebody else can get them to the finish line, but you have enough right now to help people. You have what it takes. You have the skills, the talent. So step into that. Truly step into that. Don't be afraid. But I'll say this for anybody here that's like, "Hey, I've really resonated with this conversation, Michael. I've loved it. Let's connect. Let's have a virtual coffee." I literally have a calendar on our site where we can just talk and see if this is something that we could help you with. If not, what game plan I can give you for free to help you execute this. So if you go to thefunnelpros.com, that's thefunnelpros.com, you can set up a free call with me right now. Literally, it's no cost. Nobody, it's not anybody on my on my team. It's me, and we can look at your business and see how virtual events would work for you, and just see if it's a good fit for us to work together. If not, totally cool. We're building relationships, right? We're networking. That's what this is. So you can go to thefunnelpros.com to book a little networking call with me, and we'll see what we can do. But again, Denise, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to come back for part two.
I've got actually 3 pages of notes. I've been scribbling like an idiot over here. But listen, and I'll give you a call and we'll get that set up. And I want to introduce you to my friend that I was telling you about in the green room. She desperately needs to hear all of this. So to our audience, excuse me, in today's discussion, we had the pleasure of hearing from Michael Tucker, the CEO and founder of the Funnel Pros, and go find him. Seriously, go find him. And Michael shared invaluable insights into the world of virtual events and how they can dramatically enhance an entrepreneur's influence and income. It's networking, y'all. It's networking and it's connecting. And he emphasized the importance of leveraging. Excuse me, I have to cough again. Sorry. Deep South, and we have about 8 seasons a day. So my voice just kind of goes where the season is going, it seems like. But he emphasized the importance of leveraging unique leadership styles to foster deeper connections in a virtual environment, and everything's virtual these days. And he provided practical strategies for crafting client attracting events, even for those with smaller audience. And we're going to keep on doing this. Michael will come back for part 2, possibly part 3. And if you have questions, contact me, contact him. We're both easy to find. Ask us questions and we'll get those taken care of in the next episode. So if you found today's conversation helpful, and I wanted you to, he can be found online, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, and he already gave you the website. So if you found today's conversation helpful and inspiring, I would greatly appreciate your support. So please head over onto Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. And why? Because your feedback not only helps me improve the show, but also allows me to reach more listeners just like you. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Michael, thank you. This has been absolutely delightful.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
You too.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.